Hello, listeners. I am excited that I have my dear friend, Kathy Sdao, back on the podcast today to talk about something that we do with dogs and something that we need to become better at with people, which is deeply listening. So thank you and welcome back to the show.
I love talking to you. This is
Uh,
so fun. Thanks for inviting me.
I love talking to you too. So thank you. So, Kathy, I know before we hopped on, you were telling us or telling me a story about your recent client and why listening felt so important in the consultation. So can you sort of ground us with an example of what listening is and why it's so important?
I love starting with specifics, and I had told you that it's the afternoon here, and I'm just coming away from this morning consultation with a new client who has a 1-year-old boxer and is super frustrated with this dog. Dog's name is Otis. Otis's behavior, and he's really the human, really annoyed and disappointed and kind of angry at what a maniac this dog is. I kind of was charmed by the initial email that included the line. This will make you laugh, Marissa, and maybe some of our listeners. This dog has no conscience, which makes me laugh out loud to go. It's like saying the pig doesn't have wings, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
well, that's not a anyway. So I know what he means by that. And the funny line in that initial email was, and as I'm typing this to you, he is chewing your business card in this very moment.
Oh my gosh,
Great
hilarious.
illustration of the dog's out of control and it's frustrating. And so I get to drive to this client's home and be able to be ready to hear what he's experiencing with this young dog. I definitely want to help him. I definitely want to educate him and give him some practical tips on training and management and all the things we do. I definitely want to do that. But what I'm realizing more and more, especially since COVID, is how desperate, how hungry, how needy we all are to be heard. I think the isolation has been a lot for, I know it's a lot for me. It's been a lot for many people. So as we come in to try to make connection with our clients, the reinforcer I can most dole out in the early stages of walking into this man's home is the actual presence and space and interest and curiosity to hear his story. Because I've been doing this for a long time, 20 years, and I'm sometimes tempted to go, oh, adolescent boxer, wild in the house. I
Mm,
got the protocol. Like I'm jumping
hmm
all the steps. I'm already at the bullet points. Let me tell you what to do. That is not serving this human being's need to tell me about his disappointment because you've heard this story before. The last boxer was perfect.
Yeah. Oh my
So
gosh.
there's the grief of Amos, the perfect boxer, has died. The family is
Mm.
grieving Amos, who didn't need a fence, who never needed anything other than a glance, who read their minds. Fill in the blank of the perfect remembered dog. I get that. Now they've got a perfectly normal, really smart and handsome adolescent ball of fire. And that isn't what they're used to from their life with Amos. I could skip over all that grief and disappointment and frustration, but it's important for that client to tell me this isn't what he imagined. Oh, we know what that feels like, right? Those expectations being sort of squashed. I want to hear that so that I'm building the connection with him to be able to then plant the seeds of my suggestions. If I start with my suggestions, he's going to nod and be polite and not hear anything I'm saying because we don't have any empathetic connection for me to throw my suggestions onto. I want to cultivate the ground first. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And are you, so as he was talking about that, how much of the session did that specifically take up in terms of time?
I love the practicality of this. So, because I have a 2 hour initial consultation, and that sounds like a long time, but it flies by, and I have things to say, I'm going to give typically about the first 45 minutes over to the presence of the flow of what's actually happening in the moment, and the story is often disjointed and jumps around. It is not my having a clipboard like I used to with my questions in a particular order and I'm going to interview you. I am so much more comfortable with that, Marissa. I like my clipboard. I like my organized questions, and I'm going to interview you and get to all the data. People are fine with that. They will listen. I will not get as much truth. I
Yeah.
promise you, I am not getting people revealing. Usually 45 minutes in, this is a quirky thing that's happening, sometimes an hour, what they're ashamed of. So there's a weird thing that happens about 45 minutes in. I'll often see people's body language change. Their shoulders will rest back. They'll take a pause. And sometimes, Marissa, they're actually getting up from the couch or wherever we're talking, and they will pull out of the closet or the cupboard the shock collar, the prong collar, the choke chain that they're not got on their dog because I'm a
Mm-hmm.
positive reinforcement trainer. They're not going to out that stuff to me coming in their home. They know who I am. But now they feel safe enough to go, oh, I did buy this prong collar. I totally get why you would do that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
so glad you're telling me about that. How's that working for you? Oh my God, we don't really like using it, and he doesn't look comfortable. Today, the boxer had a gentle leader. Well, I'm a little less dismayed by a gentle leader, a head collar, but still, client didn't want to tell me about that. I'm like, of course you've got this big, strong dog in a head collar. Tell me about how it's working for you. Freeing him to share the truth of, I'm not always positive and I don't always have emotional control. I know, that's why I'm here. We're going to have that honest
Mm-hmm.
conversation. But I don't want to give the whole 2 hours over to that. It's going to feel like a therapy session to my clients. Oh my gosh, I got to vent to you for 2 hours and I'm going to leave and I won't have shared anything they can do. They need to have an action plan.
Yeah.
I've got to have that ready to deliver. I can do that after we've sort of got the truth revealed and we've built some trust. I
Yeah.
find that the trust is coming from giving them the opportunity to tell me everything without the judgy look or all the ways I can hide my contempt for them doing it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm thinking about like practitioners, my experience sitting down with a practitioner and them rushing to their protocol, whether it's a doctor or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Definitely thinking about Western medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, whoa, wait, where's me in this whole thing? Right. And so what you're doing is you're creating space for them, right? You're creating space for their experience. You're creating space for their individual dog, right? You're not rushing in with the doing. You're just sitting and being with the client so that they can also be with what has them calling you in the first place, right? Like this might be the first time that they are being with these emotions, right? Like the grief, the disappointment, the frustration, the shame, whatever it is. And there's something, you made a comment about it's, this is going to feel like therapy, right? But it's almost like I say this a lot to my clients, like this isn't therapy, but you talking about your concerns can be therapeutic, right? Because like saying what you need to say, getting like acknowledging your emotions out loud and doing that in front of somebody can be so therapeutic. And then that person's actually listening to you. Oh my goodness. It's like the cherry on the top, right?
How do we as behavior professionals think we're going to fill this individual client, this, behavior is the study of one, for both the dogs and the people? How do I know what's going to reinforce this human for trying to make changes in his routine and his environment? Let's actually hear what your need is. My need for this living with this dog is different than what your need is.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I want to hear your needs. Something's frustrated in you. That's how I find my reinforcer for the human, right? It is less about, here's your homework. Here's what I would have used to say to clients. Here's your homework. And then I would go, they're so non-compliant. That is not language I would use with a non-human animal. Not compliant. What does that actually mean? They're going to do behaviors that are reinforcing for them. And they're only reinforcing if we've met their need. I need to know what your need is. It's typically not what you emailed me, right? You're not clear enough on it. So let me hear what's actually going on for you and see. Where I said, this young, beautiful, smart as a whip dog lives in a 5,000 square foot, beautiful craftsman house. It's gorgeous. The house is stunning. There is not one gate, not one tether, not one barrier. It is a loose in a giant, gorgeous house. Young dog who chews up everything.
Oh my gosh.
Chews
Yeah.
up everything. I mean, wow. So we had the list of the very valuable things he has destroyed. That's a long list of technology in your Prada glasses and the
Yeah.
shoes. And like, I feel for that. But at some point, I probably would have said, crate, gate, tether. We're going to have a conversation about that. But I'm
Uh-huh.
actually going to live with well, it's a lot of expensive stuff he's chewed up, isn't it? Yeah, it's driving me crazy. It would drive you crazy, wouldn't it? Wow, that is so not what your previous dog would have done. Amos would have
Mhm.
never done that. Amos would have never done that. Wow, you lived a whole decade and more with Amos, who never chewed up anything.
Yeah.
That's an amazing life y'all had. This dog's needs are different. They're more normal, actually. Amos was kind of an outlier. Let's talk a little bit about what's going to work for you and your family in terms of not letting him practice the mistakes. All the things we would say, but he's not going to hear any of that unless I go, that is a lot of expensive stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow, a laptop? Oh gosh, that's crazy. I'm not faking it. That is annoying. I'm not, right. This is not a stupid man. He's a professional. He's just not looking at it from the how are we going to create better habits, and this young, smart, under exercise lives in a crate way too much, all the things.
Yeah.
I can jump to all the things like my own doctor did. I love the analogy that you made. I had my first physical in 3 years with my doctor. I waited 5 months to get an annual physical. I had about 10 minutes with her. I knew it was going to be a really limited amount of time. I had some things I wanted to share. I'm a woman who lives alone in her 60s. I've lived alone for COVID. I've got some things I want to talk to my doctor about. Do you know what she said to me? Hey, I
Right.
just got a new puppy. Can you tell me something? So my 10 minutes with my doctor in 3 years. Did she connect with me on how's it going for you? I know
Yeah.
she doesn't have a lot of time. Give me 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes with my doctor. It's going to be worth everything to let you actually hear my life for COVID. I think we go, it takes too long. We're in a hurry. We got things to do. Well, that's true. Yet I think we're going to be more efficient if we let people show up, right? With everything they're actually experiencing.
Yeah. That's such a good, when you're talking about it takes too long, right? And because that was one of the initial questions I asked you, right? Was like, how long does it take, right? Because that is pushback that I hear from trainers often, right?
Mm.
It's just like, there's no time. And I have also said that as well. Like I need more time, or, there's not enough time to manage the human and multiple humans, if that's the case, and dogs or multiple animals, right? And so, um, you're right. But I think if we reframe it in a way that it's like, if you're rushing into the protocol or you're rushing in to fix it, you might be giving information that's not relevant, right? Whether I'm like, I used to do this a lot with my staff at Dumb Friends League at the shelter that I used to work at. I would try to fix their problems immediately. They would come to my office and I would be like, okay, solution 1, solution 2, solution 3. And finally, I learned through them, like they actually came up to me and were like, Marissa, I don't need a solution in those moments. And I'm like, oh, had no idea that like you wouldn't need a solution. I was just trying to help you, right? And fix the issue for you. And so we actually came up with this alliance where, okay, if you come in my office and you're concerned about something, I need you to indicate to me, is this like, I just need you to hear me, or I need you to hear me and I need a solution, right? And gosh, that worked so beautifully with those staff members, because I could sit back, right? Like for somebody that is so ready to jump and take action and to be
Mhm.
creatively thinking about the solutions, it helped me just sit back and go like, Marissa, you don't need to do anything right now. And that's hard for me, someone that works really hard at fixing and doing all the time. Even when I'm with my clients, it's like, Marissa, you don't need to fix this right now. Like take these 5 minutes to hear this client, because your solutions, A, might not even be relevant, right?
Mhm.
Or B, they might not be addressing what's like you said, like the root of the concern.
The phrase from Marshall Rosenberg, the founder of nonviolent communication, 3 words, it's next to my desk: empathy before education, is so helpful, because for trainers, we love talking about the order of events. It really matters. It matters whether you put the food in front of the dog before you do the vaccination or after. I mean, we talk about order of events all the time. It's a big piece of training. So it isn't that we're going, we don't do some problem solving and educating, but we don't start with it. That to me was such a huge relief to go, oh, I'm going to have more customized education and suggestions. I'm also going to have lighter suggestions. So I had a photo in the talk I gave on this for ClickerExpo in March in Washington, D.C. I had a photo of like a big tree and a planter. It's a big, beautiful tree. And I feel like I would often come to clients with this big, beautiful fruit tree and a big, heavy planter, and I'd hand it over to them and go, here's the tree. And clients would be going like, oh, it's very pretty, but it's super heavy and big. Like it's too much, but it's pretty, I say. Now I tend to think, which of the dozen seedlings I have, and can I just hand you a seedling that you will take and put into the cultivated soil? It's not the whole beautiful tree, but I don't need to give you the whole tree the first time. I need to start something growing and changing in your life. It can be light, it can be less. We're just shaping, we're getting the ball rolling in the right direction. I never had the patience for that. I wanted to give you all my genius. Well, how egotistical and crazy is that? No wonder people were like nodding and smiling and like, it's almost assaultive, right? Like, here's all the stuff. Let me welcome you to this conversation first. I'm going to do everything I can to set the occasion to allow me, the problem solver who wants to jump in and take all the space. Let me give myself permission to listen, to let there be some silences, to let it be awkward, because you're going to fill in those spaces with information I wouldn't have had otherwise. I'm telling you, I have more epiphanies of people telling me what they're actually doing to try to solve their behavior problems that aren't necessarily great, but hey, I want to know. That's important. And if shame or my filling all the space with my wisdom kept you from sharing that, then I'm not doing my best.
Yeah, you brought up awkward silences. And I think I have told you in the past that I have had my coach, she's watched some of my training sessions virtually. And she has always been like, oh, Marissa, like, stop filling the space. She was like, I want you to, she gave me this exercise of waiting 30 seconds, lifetime of silence.
Life things done in that 30 seconds.
And you know what she says is that we talk a lot about this in coaching as well, in my coaching program, where it's like the client's mind is busy, right? Like let their mind be busy. Because like you said, when you have those moments of silence and you just sort of pause and wait, they wind up filling it with more stuff. And it could be the stuff that you're talking about, that it's like, ooh, I don't want to say this, but okay, I'm going to say this. I do have a shot collar in the cabinet, right? It is the information that we need to know. And so, yeah, that awkward silence, I really try to lean into it. And yet it's uncomfortable, so uncomfortable, but what a great skill. Like listeners, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I want to try this, like start with 5 seconds, right? It's like, start small, because 30 seconds, I was like, you got to be kidding me. I didn't last more than 15. Like I was like, I cannot do this. Like this is so uncomfortable. So,
and I have to fill the space with a thing. I can't not talk, right? I have to go. I'm counting my breaths.
Mm-hmm.
I'm rubbing the dog's ear if it's safe to, you know what I mean? Like I am doing a thing that is not moving my mouth, but I'm doing something. Breathing, feeling
Breathing. Yep.
hot in the chair. Again, this dog was really sociable today, so I would turn my attention to him and just rub his ear because I'm doing a thing, not too intense with the dog. No one's saying anything. Gentleman comes up with something else. I'm like, okay, just
Mm-hmm.
needed a little room for him to buck up the courage to go, are you going to shame me? I'm going to tell you that I really yell at the dog when, of course, I can totally see how that happens. That would be
Yeah.
so frustrating. You can't get to work. The dog won't come in from the yard. Yeah, oh gosh, I've been there. But that has to come into some space of, I don't know, trust and connection.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's a few things more recently on Instagram that I've been seeing where trainers are saying, how can I be like, how can I have confidence in being your trainer if my dog doesn't do A, B, and C? And, just or holding their dogs to a higher standards or themselves to a higher standard because they are trainers. And I have to say, I have done that as well. And I have never connected more with my clients when I have told my clients that I have been where you're at. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's like this weird pressure that we must live, perfectly with our dogs. And yet like that actually has made my clients feel alienated from me when they have a story, because there's no way I'm perfect with my dogs, when they have had a story that I am that way. Right. And so for you to say to this client, like, gosh, yeah, that is like been there. That's so frustrating. I can totally empathize. Like that's so connecting, right? Because now you're not just the hierarchical trainer coming in there and telling you what to do. You're an actual real person that understands his concern and is going to address the situation as best as you can.
I think our egos try to convince us that if we're all shiny and perfect, it's going to work better. And I'm old enough to tell y'all, most of you are younger than I am, that isn't true. We actually make easier connections when we go, we're both human, and being human is messy and we're
Messy.
kin in that. And I can do my job really well and also say to you, I was boarding a client's young golden retriever and I so was feeling like you're feeling. I'm a really good trainer. And after 48 hours, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're exhausting to live with. You are annoying me. That's real, right?
Yeah,
That is
it's
a
real.
real experience of, I actually know what you're saying. I have skills to be able to fix that, but I can also recognize, oh, welcome to the human race. Who wants to
Mm-hmm.
be perfect and shiny? I don't know. I just feel like that makes a lot of false progress that wraps itself around control. And control isn't really the answer to any of this, right?
Yeah.
It's in building habits that create easier and safer lives together. I don't know. We're into the habit
Mm-hmm.
formation part of it, not the perfection part of it.
Yeah. Yes, it's freeing actually to let that go.
But this is
And
all
yet
pretty recent
scary.
for me. I'm telling you. So this is COVID inspired. I am seeing so many more consultation clients as I used to travel a whole lot more before COVID. And now being immersed in so many people's lives, it has invited me to be a better practitioner. And I realize I'm not great at listening, but I can change. So this isn't me preaching about something I'm really great at. It's me going, oh, I can do better. Let's think about being a trainer for myself in, listening more honestly and with curiosity and actually helping people better because of it. So it's new. It's new.
So when we're talking about listening, I'm curious, what behaviors does that include? Right? Like if we can operationalize listening, because I'm thinking about when I'm listening to a loved one or to Peru or to my clients or to myself even, right? Like how do I know I'm doing it well? Right? How can I measure my success?
And I think we use the word listening in a way that's really specific to a particular sensory organ, our ears, when especially when we're talking about listening to dogs, it very often means we're watching them.
Mm-hmm.
Trainers are especially likely to talk about observational skills with the word listening. Do you know what I mean? We are being curious about behavior. And when we're listening, it is often the verbal thing that our humans are doing. It's often talking, but they're talking with their bodies as well. So we're looking for body language. I think I told you this before. I was thinking about Lily Chin, the amazing artist who does such incredible infographics for our profession and has several books out, doggy language, and I think she's got a cat language book out. She's just an incredible illustrator. And I talked to Lily and said, I want an infographic on sort of human body language that I'd be looking at. What are our humans doing that I want to be sussing out? Not just when is your dog afraid, like what subtle behaviors you're looking for that says your dog might be fearful. Those are great. What about what subtle behaviors was this gentleman showing me when I realized he was shutting down in the conversation, right? So it's not necessarily just talking, it's the arms folded against his chest. Now, many of these are culturally specific. I don't want to too much stereotype, but I'm actually listening with my eyes as I'm in the presence. I'm taking in your behaviors because they're meaningful to me as someone who actually wants to change your behaviors, human, because that's all that training is. I'm not training the boxer. You are, and I need to have you do some behavior change. So I'm going to watch your behaviors right now. So I guess it's hard for me to go, what's the criteria that says I listened well? Other than I feel like after, especially that first conversation with new clients, I have a story that includes some messiness and some surprises, meaning I don't actually want it all to add up to the perfect story. I want there to be quirks. I want clients to go, well, can I tell you, when they get this weird body language, they're going to share with me the quirky game they play with their dogs, the weird toy the dog really likes. Oh my gosh, we let him under the covers at night. There's a body language that people do where they're like, they're almost not going to tell. I feel like, oh my gosh, if you're sharing I taught my dog to bite my nose as a game. Okay, that's hysterical and weird. But now I feel like we're actually getting to, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they're not going, oh, we practice healing for 30 minutes a day. They're not telling me what they think I want to hear. They're sort of telling me something quirky and unexpected. I take that as some information that I actually think you're free to share some stuff, especially when it's embarrassing stuff, especially when it's punishment tools or losing their temper, or like people don't brag about that stuff. They kind of turn it over to you a little warily. Like, how are you going to handle this information? Take it in, because my gosh, absolutely, I see where that comes from. Am I supporting and enabling them to do it? No, for goodness sakes, we're going to do better things. But I am in no way going to come in with my, we don't talk about. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like we get to real solutions, right?
Yeah. It's like you can acknowledge them, but you don't have to agree with them.
And I can say, if you're really feeling comfortable using these tools, if they're working for you, I'm probably not the right consultant for you. I'm not an expert in those tools, and I find I don't need them. And I really don't want to mix a little from column A and a little from column B, like a Chinese menu. The training methods don't really go together so well. So totally embrace that if it's working for you. I think there's side effects. I can share those with you if you'd like, but I also empower you to make your decision as an adult. I'm not your consultant.
Oh my gosh. Everybody who's listening, write that down. That was so beautifully said, because it again empowers their choice. Hey, I have information. If you want it, you're asking permission. If you're also being really clear about your ethics and boundaries, and everyone can make a decision from there. Like there is no, well, let me send you the position statement, on whatever, right? It's like,
that was me.
Got information. If you want it, sure.
You should see some of the emails I have written in the past to go,
oh, me too.
I'm gonna convince you I have data.
Me too.
And no human being stuck in a painful, frustrated point wants data.
Yeah.
It's too soon. It is not that little seedling you're gonna throw out, that research article, the new study, you are throwing that seed on concrete. No one is ready for that information.
You're throwing that seed on concrete. Right? I love that. Yeah.
And then we go, why didn't it grow?
Yeah.
There wasn't any ground cultivated for that.
Yes.
I got it if you want it. Happy to share it with you. I can't help you with that. I wish you well. And I mean that sincerely. I wish you and the
Yeah.
dog well, but I'm going to help someone who's a little more open to this
Yeah.
style. But any pushback that I do, any resistance creates more doubling down
More.
in the thing,
Yep.
right? So mercy on all of us. We're doing the best we can, and there's so much misinformation. I have a lot of empathy for people who have read the wrong website, seen the wrong TikTok, and you know what?
Mhm.
They're trying. They're trying something they're not an expert at.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You have a really cool, you have a cool slide
I
or some
do.
cool information
I do.
about what are some antecedents that get in the way of listening.
So I have two things I want to share. So if
Oh yeah,
my first
please
is,
share them.
so this is not my list. It is Holly Humphrey's list. She's a nonviolent communication educator. I am going to share this information with Marissa. She'll put in the podcast note so you can find
Yes.
Holly Humphrey's article describing this. But this was a big light bulb moment when I read it, because Holly Humphrey says, if you want to be an empathetic listener, you want to be a better, sincere, present listener. That's your aspiration. I'm going to tell you the things you do instead of that. I'm going to tell you the behaviors that get in the way, because you're not doing nothing. You're doing some behavior you're more fluent at that crowds out the listening. So she's going to give a list of behaviors that people do instead of listening. And when I read the list, I'm like, oh, I totally know which ones are mine. Like it jumped out at me like, oh, these 2 of the 10 you list are mine. And so I'm going to just tell you the list, and you might be able to sort of.
I know. I want to see if I can guess what yours are.
Oh, you're going to guess what mine are. So the first one is you're going to advise or fix it. So I think we've already addressed that a little bit, going, we are professional advisors. We are going to advise and help problem solve. We're just not going to do it first. Okay, so fixing it up front. That well-intentioned, let me help you. It feels really non-consenting when someone really needs to be heard and you try to solve their problems.
Yep.
It's really angry making. So I've had people recently, actually, I just want you to hear my story. It's painful. And when you have 12 solutions, I know you're being friends. Please just listen. Right. So everyone's been in that position where you're like, oh my God, do not give me the life hack that will solve the thing I'm telling you about. Just let me say that I'm frustrated or whatever. Annoyed. The second one is explain it away. You're going to just minimize the thing that's happening. You're going to explain it away. And I would say, oh my gosh, do you not know what boxers are like? Boxers are really intense and energetic. It's a breed thing. I'm going to brush it aside. I'm going to correct it. No. That is not what actually happened when you were having that conversation with your coworker. That's not actually how it went. You're going to correct that person's experience. A little reality check. Okay, the person is sharing their experience. It is their experience. Let them share it. Oh, you poor thing. I'm going to console you. That is so awful. They did what to you? Oh my God, Marissa, that is just terrible. It's a big social media one. We love you. So the responses to the thing you want us to hear is consolation. It comes from a place of love, but consoling is not actually listening. Oh, poor you. Tell a story. That reminds me of the time I was working with the walrus at the zoo and we had a problem just like that. Oh my God, I have so many stories, Marissa.
I do that one. That is a big one for me.
I have good stories. You have good stories.
But you're an amazing storyteller.
I jump right to it. I've got sexy species to talk about. Oh dear God, stop snatching the spotlight. Stop doing that. My stories might be helpful. Oh, don't do that up front. Really, it skews the entire conversation. Stop telling stories so early. Shut the conversation down. Nope, we don't talk about those things here. That is not something we talk about at the dinner table, right? We're just not allowing certain topics to come up. Commiserate is a little bit like console, right? I had that same thing happen to me at work yesterday. That total thing. I have felt that. That's not actually empathy when you're commiserating. It's a little
Yeah.
bit of a different thing that, again, shines a spotlight on you. Interrogate. Now, wait, what actually happened? What did you do at that point? Tell me again. Did you say that? Now, where were you? We're doing the spotlight in the police interrogation room. Like,
Yeah.
this is not your witness in a crime. Like, yes, you're going to ask some questions as a consultant. Oh my gosh, it's not the third degree. Let the person talk. Educate. I have wisdom. I have data. Marissa, I have research articles. I'm going to educate you because I love the science of training, and I'm going to throw the data at you. Oh God, Kathy, take a breath. Really, people are not that into the research as I am at the point I'm first starting to have a conversation with them. They don't want to know how to fix their car. They just want the car to run. I get that. I'm really fascinated with the mechanics of behavior. That you're not fascinated with the mechanics of behavior? It's okay. Makes you human. I'm a weirdo. I educate too much. One up them. You think that's bad? You
Oh,
think
it's the
watching is
worst.
bad? You should see the client that I had last week. This is nothing. At least he's friendly. All these things come from well-intentioned
Yeah.
wanting to connect. They take up the space. They take up the space.
Mm.
Fixing, explaining it away, correcting, consoling, telling a story, shutting down, commiserating, interrogating, educating, one-upping. I'll send you the link to Holly's article about it, but it was helpful to me to go, oh, I can more recognize the habit that I have before I develop the new habit of.
Oh yeah, I love that. I love that we talked about this after I asked you the question, like what behaviors does listening include? Because you're right, it might be better for folks, um, myself included, right, to go, okay, when am I not listening? Okay, when I'm doing A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, right? Okay, so maybe my shaping plan might be noticing that I'm doing that. And then what's my replacement behavior? It might be to like change my body posture, take a breath, do a little bit of a shake off, or like lots of times I used to like change positions, right?
Yes, exactly.
Like go stand somewhere new,
That.
or
Mhm.
like go do a different behavior to sort of get me out of whatever loop I'm in there.
I'm with you on that one. In this case this morning with the boxer, unlike a lot of my dogs, it was safe for me to be loose in a room with him. He doesn't want to bite me. That's not always the case. So for him, I absolutely got up and walked across the room. I just got up and moved because moving is something really easy for me to do. And I just got up and moved across the room, pretended
mhm.
to get something out of my gear bag or got something that I didn't really need, a pen, a clicker out of my gear bag, and walked back to the couch. I'm just filling the space without talking with another behavior. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Much more freeing to go, oh, I'm going to do this other thing to help support my not filling it in with words. That's a kindness to ourselves. I love that.
Yeah.
That a lot.
Yeah, because I feel like I have, I can, as you read that list, I feel like I have done all of those in some
Me
way.
too.
And I have experiences of people doing them to me
Mhm.
and not liking it. Like not liking, especially more recently, as you know, my listeners know, like I've gone through personal stuff, and there are specific people I go to talk to because I know they're listening to me. And there are specific people that like they can't because it's really painful what I'm talking about, or it's
Yeah.
triggering something in them or whatever, or they just don't have the skills to be able to hold space for me to talk about stuff. And that's okay, right? Like I know who my people are, and gosh, I have been on the receiving end of like, well, at least this didn't happen. And you're like, yeah, I know, but like what did happen is actually kind of painful. So,
I love
so
Brene Brown's hack that says, if your empathy starts with at least, it's not
it's,
good.
yeah, like don't do it. Don't do it. Like,
It's not,
please.
not helpful. And
Not helpful.
you allude to something really important that I think it's easy to skip over. In the whole listening to the other, we listen to ourselves and sometimes we go, not up for this, not up for this right now because I don't have the bandwidth or resources,
Hmm.
not up for this particular conversation because it brings up stuff for me that I can't handle with, not up for this conversation because we're not going to have a productive relationship working together. So wish you well, but I'm out. You don't have to listen to everybody 100% of the time. That would be very unkind to you.
Yeah.
I love being able to say to our friends and loved ones, oh, I got some stuff. Are you up for listening to me
Mm-hmm.
for 10 minutes? Do you have 10 minutes where I can just tell you what's going on for me? Oh, that's a real kindness for the person to be able to go, oh, I'll have 10 minutes later. Cool. When can we do that? But that sounds small, but it's a lot to be able to
No,
go,
it's
what I
huge.
need. Can you deliver it? It's not infinite because sometimes I think I don't want to be a listener because I'm like, when will it end? I don't have an infinite amount of time for a friend, or do you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, let's hop on a call and talk. That seems really open-ended and infinite. And hey, let's hop on a call and talk. You get 20 minutes. I'd like to just share this difficult thing with you. Absolutely, I'm in. So I
Mm-hmm.
think there's also being fair to, you don't have to listen to everybody at every moment. I've had people come up to me and go, are you really suggesting I listen to this particular horrible person in my life? I'm not suggesting anything for you. I'm simply saying, in striving to be a better listener, I'm surprised how often I've gone from being, you're terrible, to, oh my God, my heart breaks for the pain you're in.
Yeah.
Not because I'm a good person, because I'm actually hearing his truth, her truth, their truth. I don't know. It's not about me being less judgmental. It's being harder to judge someone who's sharing their truth. I just want to hear their truth.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, you're bringing up the point of like listening to yourself, right? Like if I were to text you and say, "Hey, Kathy, I need to hop on a call with you," you then need to listen to yourself and go, "Okay, I don't have the bandwidth for her." Like, and I need to then be able to say my boundaries or whatever, like I do tomorrow or whatever that is. But you are also listening to yourself, not just to me, right? This isn't just like this isn't just a one way, right?
Because I want it to be sustainable. And if I don't
Mhm.
tell you my boundaries, we don't have the long term growing relationship. I'm picturing that little seedling growing into the big, beautiful tree. I'm in it for the long haul in growing something really beautiful together. It's not sustainable if I'm not sharing with you. I'm really tired right now. I can give you 10 minutes, but if it's going to be longer, can we do it tomorrow? I'm going to have more time tomorrow. And
Mhm.
I'm going to have had a rest. That just feels fair to be able to go, I don't have to be everything to everybody. Listening is, in some ways, the biggest gift we can give one another. So we'll be careful with not doing it out of obligation.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a couple of other things. Do we have time for me to tell you a couple of
Yeah.
actual less conceptual antecedent arrangements?
Yeah.
Let me tell you a couple of changes I've made in my consultations in the last couple of years. So first off, I want to try to choose. So this was a big house I was walking into. As I'm walking in, and the beautiful athletic boxer is jumping on me, and the family is trying to grab him and yell at him. So already I'm 30 seconds into the house. We've got reprimanding and yelling and embarrassment. And I'm just going to walk right through the boxer, who I am not worried is going to bite me. He's just jumping, and say, what's the room in your house that's going to be most comfortable to talk? And the man and his daughter look at each other and go, oh, I don't know. That's a good question. How about the playroom? So we're already, which space do we want to be in? I'm going to invite you to do that. Where can I set my gear bag filled with food and toys? This dog is going to mug it relentlessly. Where can I set this up high that's not going to ruin any of your furniture? It's really nice furniture. My gear bag is crappy looking, right? So I'm like, where can I put this where he's not going to be tempted to get it? We've got a little bathroom off that room. Do you want to just put it inside the bathroom? Brilliant. I'm going to set my gear bag inside on the counter in your bathroom. I'm going to shut that door. Is that okay with you? Yeah, that's okay. Um, how can I say, I'm actually going to have my eyeballs on you and be watching you? I'm taking very few notes now. I used to have the clipboard and the yellow pad, and I'm like a stenographer and I'm taking notes. My eyeballs are here. I'm doing this. I didn't take any notes in person with this family. I got into my car after I left, dumped it all on the notepad afterwards. I don't want my eyeballs on the notepad and me looking like your secretary. I want to
Mhm.
have a notepad here. Every once in a while, there's a detail I have to go, wait a minute, your vet prescribed what? Or like there's a detail I need. Hang on, I'm going to write that down. Right. Put the pen down, back up to you. Like I want my default behavior to be, I am actually watching you. I've got my ears and my eyes on you. Why is the dog not mugging me? Because I've said to them, I've got a Kong stuffed in my gear bag. Does he have food allergies? No. Can he be chewing on a Kong while we're talking? It's going to help us not be so distracted by him. We can't put this dog in another room. He's going to go crazy. The dog has no barriers in the house. Can I anchor him with a food puzzle that I've got ready to go? Yeah. So not only is the dog modeling good behavior eating the Kong, he's out of my face so I don't have to listen to them reprimand it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Literally creating the space and the comfort. Dog is busy by my side. This doesn't always work. Sometimes it's too dangerous for me to be handing food to the dog. But in this case, dog was happy and resting. I'm watching them. We're in a space where they're comfortable. My gear bag is out of grabbing range. It's small things, but it's set up to be, whew, I am comfortable and receptive.
Mm.
Necessarily handling and training the dog and taking notes and grabbing my gear bag away from him. And I'm here, I'm comfortable. I really want to work on that in the first few minutes to be able to say, I want you to be comfortable talking to me too. I'm coming into their house. It's a weird thing already. They're already awkward. No, we're in the best space. You guys are comfortable. I'm also going to tell them, hey, by the way, I just want to let you know, I don't want the time to get away from us. So I've set my phone to make a really quiet chime an hour in, and then when we have 15 minutes left. So we're going to get notified by the phone because we might lose track of time as we're talking. My phone's going to let us know when an hour has gone by, and we can together make a decision. Whether you want to keep telling me the story or you want to segue a little into doing some training, and I'll give you some suggestions.
Oh, I love that, Kathy.
Sometimes clients go, no, I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm like, cool. I'm just letting you know. Phone's going to chime again when we have 15 minutes, and I'm going to grab those last 15 minutes from you. So even if you have more story, I need to give you some information. And if we only have 15 minutes for me to talk to you, we're going to be scheduling another appointment. So up to you. You get the choice.
Yeah.
But we're going to run out of time for me to say everything I want to say, but I can come back. But I'm going to take that last 15 minutes, okay? It's just a way for me to manage that time, because otherwise it all just goes swoop and everybody had an interesting conversation and I'm trying to get to my car and people are like, but what do we do?
Yeah.
That's not good.
Love that.
Eh.
That is so tangible for our listeners. Like, thank you for sharing that. That's so, and how do you feel like that's impacted your sessions?
They are so much more authentic. I don't know what another word, I want to use a word that's less sort of airy fairy than that. But I actually feel like I'm having real conversations with people, and they're not easy conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people are revealing, we do hard work. This is not always a solvable problem. It really was today. This was kind of a fun case to take a dog who's going to be fantastic once they can get through this really frustrating adolescent stage. That isn't always the case. So we have hard conversations to have. But I feel like I don't want to come in. I used to think that my job was to be the dog's advocate. I loved animals and I was coming in as a consultant to advocate for the dog. And it feels so wrong in retrospect. I'm advocating for this family and their welfare, all of them. And if that advocation means I hear that the situation is really unsafe mentally and physically for you, you are leading a mentally unhealthy life because of how afraid you are of this dog, or just how your lives have changed. I want to actually hear and respect. You're an adult with all kinds of life experience I can't possibly know. And I'm going to count as true where you're stuck and frustrated. And I'm going to be an honest advocate for where you might be able to get with behavior modification and management and the things we suggest. Sometimes it isn't that solvable. And I want to hear that truth. I feel like we're having conversations that are more grounded in the reality of solving hard problems when the answers aren't always easy.
Yeah. Yes. Amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
It's hard work we do.
It is really hard work we do.
We need to be honest with ourselves. And if any of the suggestions I make today, or Marissa, that you make, I know this is true for both of us, at all impact our listeners' wellness in a bad way, something's not right. So this isn't take on more of the burden yourself, because I'm betting we have some colleagues that are listening who are already feeling burnt out and cannot do anymore. And please don't ask me to listen. Hey, if your welfare doesn't improve by making these changes, something's not right. This is not taking on more of the problem. I actually feel freer having these conversations with folks in this really honest way, rather than, I would say to you, 5-8 years ago, I was having a false confidence about the impact I was making because people did a lot of smiling and nodding at me, but I actually don't think I got to where their actual reality was in a lot of those cases. And I think I just didn't hear from them again because I wasn't allowing in all the messiness of, yeah, sometimes I use a leash correction. Sometimes I reprimand my dog. I know. Let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about that. Let's work on some, giving you some other tools, but that's nothing to be ashamed about. So I don't know. Part of it is to be able to go, you should feel better and a little bit lighter if we're doing this well. This is not preaching for you to try harder. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. That's such a good point because yeah, if you are burnt out and you're listening, you're like, oh gosh, now I have to drop in and hold space for
Right.
everyone. Oh, I don't even want to do that. And yeah, listen to that. Speaking of listening, right? Listen to that. Like, what is going on for you that you feel so burnt out? Like, is it whether you're listening or not to the clients, or is it like your caseload, or is like, what is it? Is it how you're running your business model? Like it could be so many different things. It's this, you're right. It's not to be added on top of what we're already doing, which is hard.
When I would bring home this story, I would tell myself of, oh, they're just not doing the right things that I tell them to do. It took a really long time for me to realize, oh, is that actually true? Like, why would they keep rejecting my wisdom? Is the story.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because I didn't really have the connection to be able to offer them authentic. Here's the seedling that will grow in your cultivated ground, Marissa. I've got other ideas and seedlings here, but the one that's going to grow for you right now is this little
Mm-hmm.
marigold. Here it is. Let's start there. Boy, that is a tough thing for me to take as reality. We shape behaviors gradually and it picks up momentum over time, and we can create big, beautiful things starting small.
Starting small.
We know
Mm-hmm.
that clicker trainers, positive reinforcement trainers, we know what shaping is. Yeah, we don't really trust it when we go, but this is a serious problem. And we need to have the 10-point plan for how we're going to address it. And people's lives are busy and we're all post trauma. It's trauma informed care for all of us after COVID. I don't know why we think
Mm-hmm.
any of us escaped unscathed. So we can't do your 10-point bullet plan. We can
You
do a
know,
couple of things.
the 10-point bullet plan. I mean, I'm in a control unleash class with Peru right now. I barely find time to practice between each class. And I'm a trainer and I am out training with her often. And so I mean, yes, it's too, there's so much we're all juggling. And so, yes, connecting with people, like, gosh, you are offering value when you are listening to your client. Just the same way that you're offering value when you give them a management strategy or an enrichment strategy or a behavior modification strategy. Listening is as valuable.
So I want people to do an experiment because I started when I was thinking about this, I'm like, can this really be true? I started to pay attention to when people listen to me, and Marissa, it's going to make me cry, but I mean strangers like listening to me for 30 seconds. I live in Tacoma, Washington, and this morning, for real, I saw a pod of killer whales, orca, for the first time on my
Oh,
walk with
wow.
this morning. Like, they're here. I know they've been here. I don't see them. I'm someone who's trained whales. I can spot whales. This morning, like the whole pod was there. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a pod of orca right here. And I'm like talking to strangers, like the thing you do, like we're having. Now, they weren't there very long. There's a whole bunch of them. There's all their dorsal fins. They're breathing. They're right there. Strangers are connecting like we're at the Super Bowl. Like, oh my God, they're there. They took a breath. They dived. They're gone. Like, that's going to feed me forever. That
Yeah.
2 minutes of connection over this amazing, enchanting bit of nature, it doesn't take that much. So the experiment I would do is just think about how you feel the last time friend, family, stranger, cashier, random person on the street listened to you. It's such a thing our heart swells to.
Totally.
I just want to take that and go, oh, I can do that for someone else.
Yeah.
Betting they're as hungry for it as I am. I don't know.
Yeah.
COVID. I called COVID the universal motivating operation, meaning it has changed the power of the reinforcer of being heard. So where that was important, I think, for all of us before, for a lot of us now, little doses of being heard. You actually heard what I said. Means
Mm-hmm.
a lot. So
Yes.
we can, I was going to say use that. That sounds Machiavellian. We could pay attention to how powerful that reinforcer is for the folks we get to work with, right?
Love that. Kathy, thank you so much for sharing your brilliance here. I
So
appreciate
fun to
you.
talk to you. It's so great to have the podcast as a resource. I listen to it all the time and it's amazing. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Where can people find you online?
They can look at my website, which is my name, kathysdao.com. And probably the thing the website's best for is there's an archive of some articles I've written, not so recently, but they're still good articles. But also, if people want to reach out to me and say, hey, can I schedule a consultation with you? Whether you're in my neighborhood in the Pacific Northwest or you want to do something over Zoom, you can find out how to do that on my website.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Marissa. Bye.